Ever wonder what our ancestors had for dinner thousands of years ago? Here's a clue. It was much bigger than a chicken, and no, it wasn't a dinosaur. In the era before supermarkets, takeaways, and microwavable meals, our ancestors had to be a bit more resourceful when it came to dinner time. Picture a time when the human diet was a tad wilder, a tad more adventurous. We're not talking about the odd bit of foraging or spearfishing, but something altogether more extraordinary. Our prehistoric predecessors weren't just hunter-gatherers, they were culinary innovators. They had to be. Their survival depended on it. So they turned to a food source that was not only plentiful, but also rather unsuspecting. The question of what was on the prehistoric menu has puzzled scientists for years. The answer, as it turns out, is quite unexpected. So if they weren't dining on dino drumsticks, what were our ancestors feasting on? Get ready to be surprised. Imagine a creature as tall as a giraffe, as hefty as an elephant, but as slow as, well, a sloth. That's right, our ancestors had a taste for giant sloths. These mammoth-sized mammals, known as Megatherium, were a marvel of the Ice Age. With their colossal height reaching up to 20 feet and weighing in at nearly 4 tons, they truly lived up to their giant moniker. But don't let their size fool you. These gentle giants were vegetarian, feasting on leaves, twigs, and fruits. Their long, curved claws were not for hunting, but for pulling down branches and for defense. They lumbered around the plains and forests of South America, their slow pace a stark contrast to their enormous size. These creatures roamed the Earth around 10,000 years ago, cohabitating the planet with early humans. Now that you've met our furry giant, it's time to find out how it ended up on the prehistoric dinner table. So how does one go about making a meal out of a creature that's about as big as a double-decker bus and covered in fur? Let's take a step back into the past and imagine how our ancestors might have approached this colossal culinary challenge. First off, the hunt. Picture a group of early humans, armed with little more than stone-tipped spears, facing off against a creature that's about as tall as a giraffe when standing on its hind legs. It's a daunting task, but our ancestors were nothing if not tenacious. Now let's talk about the butchering. With such a massive beast, this was no small task. Using sharp stones and possibly early forms of knives, they would have to strip away the fur and cut through layers of fat to reach the meat. It's like trying to carve a turkey, only the turkey is the size of a small car. Preparing the meal would have been an equally monumental task. Without the convenience of modern cooking methods, they might have used fire pits or hot stones to cook the meat. Imagine the aroma of slow-roasting giant sloth wafting through the prehistoric air. So, there you have it. The next time you're struggling with a can opener, spare a thought for our ancestors wrestling with a giant sloth for dinner. So, what happened to these giant sloths? Did we eat them all? Well, the answer is not as simple as you might think. These creatures were indeed a part of the human diet, but they didn't just disappear from our plates overnight. The extinction of the giant sloths is a topic that has intrigued scientists for years. Some believe that the giant sloths simply couldn't adapt to the changing climate and dwindling food sources. Others think that they fell victim to diseases brought by the humans they interacted with. But the most widely accepted theory? Overhunting by humans. Yes, our prehistoric ancestors had quite the appetite, and the giant sloth was a prime target. Imagine a creature that's slow, easy to track, and provides enough meat to feed a family for weeks. It's like the prehistoric version of a supermarket sweep. However, it's important to remember that this is just a theory. The truth is, we may never know exactly what led to the demise of these fascinating creatures. But one thing's for certain, they left behind a legacy that continues to captivate us today. From being a source of sustenance to becoming a subject of scientific study, the giant sloth has certainly made its mark in history. And who knows, maybe one day we'll discover more about these gentle giants and their relationship with our ancestors. And that's a wrap! Next time you're enjoying your dinner, remember it could have been a giant sloth. Now, isn't that a fun fact to chew on?